Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump make a final push ahead of election day in swing states. Trump says he'll launch an economic miracle after victory. Harris warns his plan could spark recession and inflation. Angry crowds confront Spain's King Philippe VI and Queen Letizia in flood-hit Valencia. Search goes on for missing people, but their numbers remain unknown. Authorities in Pakistan's Lahore announced emergency measures in view of unprecedented air pollution levels. Primary schools shut. Orders issued for work from home. India's Adani group cuts 50% electricity supply to Bangladesh due to unpaid bills. Sets a deadline of the 7th of November to settle its dues. And in sports, New Zealand become the first team to whitewash India at home in a 3-match test series. Beat India by 25 runs in the third test in Mumbai. Well, first up, let's get you all the latest on the US presidential polls 2024 as the race to the White House nears the finish line. "75 million Americans have already voted early, but Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are hitting the campaign trail in swing states once again on Sunday, with less than 48 hours to go for voting day in the race to the White House. The Democratic nominee appeared on comedy show Saturday Night Live on Saturday night, but Republicans say the surprise skit violates equal airtime rules for candidates. Regardless of the mutual derision and disrespect, both the contenders are also trying to stick to their core messages, be it on the economy, inflation, jobs or immigration, healthcare and reproductive rights.
It's been a blitz of swing states campaigning through the weekend by both the contenders in the US presidential elections ahead of the 5th of November battle royale. Saturday saw Republican Donald Trump campaigning in both North Carolina and Virginia, where he reinforced his message on the economy and immigration. Trump, at his final rally of the day in North Carolina, told voters that the Tuesday election will be Liberation Day in America.
The United States is now an occupied country, but it will soon be an occupied country no longer. On November 5th, 2024, this will be Liberation Day in America. It's going to be liberation.
Later addressing a rally in Virginia's Salem, Trump said he ran for office to rescue the economy from obliteration.
I stand before you today as the only candidate who can rescue our economy, and I mean from obliteration, and restore it to strength, prosperity, and greatness again. I will do a real job for you.
Kamala Harris also rallied for support in North Carolina, where the US Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate not only attacked Trump on women's reproductive rights, healthcare issues and abuse of power charges, but also painted the alternative picture of a people's presidency where she will cut taxes for 100 million Americans.
That will be my focus every single day as president. I will give a middle-class tax cut to over 100 million Americans. I will enact the first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries. Fight to make sure that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live.
The day also saw Harris making a surprise appearance on the Saturday Night Live TV comedy show. Harris portrayed herself appearing in a mirror opposite the actor who plays her on the show, Maya Rudolph. Saturday also saw thousands of women marching towards the White House in Washington, D.C. to support both legal abortion and Kamala Harris. The Democratic nominee has made abortion rights a central plank of her White House bid against Republican Donald Trump. On Sunday, with less than 48 hours to go for Tuesday's polls to open, Trump will hold rallies in Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia. Harris will hit the campaign trail in Michigan and Pennsylvania. The final New York Times Siena College poll released 2 days before the ultimate clash put the main contenders in tight race in the country's 7 battleground states. Ground Report, DD India.
Now, the US is all set to elect its new president, but what does that vitriolic campaigning season say about the racial dynamics in American politics? How far has the nation come since the civil rights movement of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Well, DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh engages with various stakeholders to decode this issue.
We are traveling through the US to cover the presidential elections. We are here in Atlanta. America today presents itself as a beacon of hope, as the greatest democracy in the world. But it was not always the land of equality and freedom. Till 1960s and 70s, racial segregation was a reality. And then came Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and he said, "I have a dream."
The dream of equality and freedom from the scourge of racial violence and discrimination. Dr. King led a non-violent movement in the late 1950s and 60s to achieve legal equality for African Americans in the United States.
In the 12 years or so that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the American civil rights movement, they say that the African Americans made more progress than they did in the past 3 centuries. But now it's 2024 and time for US presidential elections. We want to understand what is the place for racism in US politics.
We visit some early voting centers in Atlanta to talk to voters.
As a Black woman within America, I feel that it is my right to do my vote. As we all know, we are living in a country that was built on us, but not for us.
Race is not a major issue here, although at least one of the parties likes to make it one because their support is bigger in that base.
The United States of 2024 is far more racially diverse nation than America of the 1950s, but the vitriolic campaigning shows diversity and discrimination can exist at the same time.
Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Still today, we see big disparities. African Americans, Asian Americans, and Latino Americans vote at lower rates and have lower socioeconomic advancement than the white population.
Should I deny it completely? No, I'm not. I'm being realistic. That there is there, but we made significant progress, especially in USA. We made significant progress. Imagine having an African American president for not once, 2 terms. And now another lady is running for the highest office in this country.
The presidential campaign this year has been one of the most polarized ones. It remains to be seen if the outcome will heal the divisions or open old wounds. Shubhendu Ghosh's report for DT India, Atlanta.
Now, with the contest in the swing states at knife's edge between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, even a small number of votes can tip the balance. Indian Americans are present in substantial numbers in crucial swing states like Michigan, North Carolina and Pennsylvania, and they could significantly influence the election's outcome. DD India's Amritpal Singh has spoken with Dr. K.A. Paul, an activist in Philadelphia who is close to both the parties. He explains on how Indians are in a fix in this presidential race.
I have with me Dr. K.A. Paul. He's an activist, an Indian American. What are you telling the Indian Americans, because you work closely with them in this election? What role do you see them playing?
India has an opportunity to make history. Number one, every Indian, 3 to 4 million voters in America, should come out and cast your vote and influence others who is not voting. oh, my vote doesn't count. Remember, year 2000, George Bush won by 532 votes. And last two elections, Trump won in 2020 with only Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, 45,000 votes, even though 81 were cast. And Biden won with these same three swing states. So casting your vote is the most important thing.
Which way are the Indians swinging, Dr. Paul, given that Kamala Harris has an Indian connection, but Donald Trump is also a friend of India?
Here it is. Donald Trump's vice president wife is from my hometown, Visakhapatnam. So I have relation there. And Donald is a good friend for years. But Kamala Harris is our half Indian sister. So that is why this time, for the first time in 1992, Bill Clinton, I'm not openly endorsing.
So is it a tough call for the Indians?
Very tough call. Why? Because people love Donald Trump because he loves India and he talks favorably and meets Prime Minister Modi many times and all that. But Kamala, I say, hey, I'm Indian. I count on your vote. So there is a saying, if you go front, if you go backwards, you're caught between in the hard rock.
Okay. So it's a tough call for the Indians. They are divided.
But Indians will make the difference between India and America relations. We got to play the most important role of our lifetime because India should lead.
What happens if there's not a clear winner? And what's your message to the Indian Americans and the Americans in general?
That is why I am calling for peace, fair and free elections. Because the Republicans think election is going to be rigged, like January 6, 2021. What we have seen at the Capitol. Democrats think there will be a terrible violence, worse than 2021 Trump time.
So that's what everybody's thinking here on everybody's mind is that what if there is not a clear verdict? Would it then go down to the wire? What sort of a situation would emerge then? With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Well, I'm sure we'll cross the bridge when we come to it, but for the moment, we're moving on. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Moldovans vote in a second round of presidential elections. US deploys a strategic bomber for joint air drills with South Korea and Japan following North Korea's ICBM launch. And an anti-government protest held in Belgrade after fatal railway collapse in Serbia.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. The death toll in Spain's deadliest floods in modern history has crossed 217 numbers. While search and rescue efforts are being kept up, there's no fixed number for those who are still missing. Though the Spanish government has upped the number of armed forces personnel deployed to help with search and cleanup efforts by 5,000 troops, adding to the 2,500 already assigned, the anger among the ravaged residents of Valencia was more than evident when Spain's monarch, King Felipe VI, visited them along with Queen Letizia, along with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. Take a look.
Tensions ran high in flood-ravaged city of Valencia. Angry Crown confronted Spain's King Felipe VI and government officials who visited the area impacted by severe flooding. The deadliest floods in Spain's modern history have claimed over 217 lives. Search continues for missing ones. However, government expressed its inability to provide exact figures for the number of missing people.
We cannot give figures for number of missing people. We have to be absolutely rigorous. It is clear that we already have a very high number of people dead, and in that sense, through the official mechanisms.
Cleanup and rescue efforts continued throughout on Sunday. Authorities have restricted access to roads for 2 days to allow emergency services to carry out search, rescue and logistic operations more effectively. Meanwhile, residents of nearby cities came together to clean up the town.
Well, it's terrible for the people who have lost their homes and for those who aren't here, and for the entire town. Because in the end, you might not have lost your house, but a friend of yours has. Someone you know.
Earlier, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez held a crisis meeting with his cabinet. He also pledged additional troops, deploying 5,000 more soldiers to help with search and rescue efforts, making this Spain's largest military operations in peacetime. The tragedy has even reached the Vatican, with Pope Francis offering prayers. Tripti Tripathi for DD India.
Moldovans headed to the polls on Sunday for a presidential election marked by allegations of foreign interference and the potential for Moscow to regain influence just as the country seeks closer ties with the European Union. Pro-EU incumbent Maia Sandu, who has been steering Moldova away from Russia's influence, faces a challenger from Alexander Stoyanoglu, a former prosecutor general with support from the traditionally pro-Russian Socialist Party. The election's outcome is likely to shape the political landscape ahead of the parliamentary elections scheduled for next summer.
Today, more than ever, we have to be united to keep the pace, to protect our vote, to protect our independence. The thieves want to buy a vote, the thieves want to buy a country, but the power of the people is infinitely greater than any of their foul play.
And the opposing candidate, Alexander Stoyanoglu, denied having any involvement with Russia.
I have no relations with the Kremlin, nor with the representatives of other states, nor with the special services. And if you've been observing until now, no information has appeared that I am a person that has such interest. I am a person who will promote only the interests of the Republic of Moldova.
After months of suffering and threats since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina, Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh have come out on the streets, demanding equal rights and dignity as citizens of the country. The caretaker government of Muhammad Yunus has condemned attacks on Hindus, but also said that in many cases they were motivated by politics rather than religion. Meanwhile, Bangladesh faces severe power crisis as the Indian conglomerate Adani has slashed cross-border electricity supply by half due to some $850 million unpaid bills, and has given an ultimatum to settle the dues by the 7th of this month. Here's more in this report.
Hundreds marched in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka on Saturday to demand protection for Hindus and other minorities who suffered violence and threats since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina. After months of sufferings, they have hit the streets, demanding equal rights and dignity as the citizen of the country. Protest organizers have urged the interim government to introduce a law to protect minorities and mandate a minimum share of minority representation in government, among other demands.
We are citizens of this country. Why should we have to ask for equal dignity and rights here? A positive environment has been created through the anti-discrimination student movement where there should be no discrimination. By eliminating that discrimination, we all wish to live in this state united with equal dignity and rights.
We have previously protested to safeguard the rights of minorities through our 8-point demands, and today we are holding a rally and procession in the same spirit. We are trying to present our demands to the government and are eagerly waiting for the government to accept our 8-point demands, which would be highly beneficial for both the government and us.
Hindus are the largest minority faith in mostly Muslim Bangladesh, accounting for around 8% of the population. They have been targeted in various parts of the country since the student-led mass uprising in last August. This week, tensions inflamed due to filing of sedition charges against 19 people who participated in an earlier minority rights rally in the port city of Chittagong. The caretaker government, led by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, has acknowledged and condemned attacks on Hindus, but also said that in many cases they were motivated by politics rather than religion. Amid months of violent protests and lawlessness, Bangladesh faces a severe power crisis. Indian conglomerate Adani's coal-fired Godda plant in India's Jharkhand state supplies between 7 to 10% of Bangladesh's baseload power demand of 13 gigawatt. But it has slashed cross-border electricity supply to Bangladesh by half due to some $850 million in unpaid bills. Now Dhaka is scrambling to boost production to stem blackouts. Chairman of the state-run Bangladesh Power Development Board, BPDB, Rezaul Khan, said that they are trying to meet the gap by running other plants. He added that BPDB is discussing the issue with Adani and trying to increase the payment size gradually. Bangladesh, a nation of some 170 million people, is struggling to find dollars to make the payments. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we'll be speaking with our expert guest as well in just a bit about what's happening in Bangladesh. But for the moment, we'll also tell you what's happening in Pakistan. Well, Pakistan's second largest city of Lahore has announced the closure of primary schools for a week over record pollution. The government has also imposed a ban on three-wheelers known as rickshaws and halted construction in certain areas. These measures came after the air quality index, which measures a range of pollutants, exceeded 1900 at a few places.
Air pollution has brought Pakistan's second largest city, Lahore, to a standstill, with authorities forced to impose emergency measures. The air quality index has skyrocketed, reaching levels above 1000 multiple areas and even hitting an alarming 1900 in some spots. In response, authorities have ordered all primary schools to close for a week, with a review planned for next Saturday to decide if closure should continue. The government has also directed public and private offices to adopt work-from-home policies, ban three-wheeled vehicles, and halted construction in high-pollution areas to curb emissions.
Our chest feels tight and we have difficulty breathing. When we are riding our bikes, our eyes feel like they are burning. If this continues, it will take years of the lives of the people of Lahore.
For days now, Lahore, a city of 14 million, has been blanketed by a thick layer of smog. This dangerous mix of pollutants stem from low-grade diesel exhaust, smoke from seasonal agriculture burning, and cooler winter air trapping pollutants close to the ground.
The smoke is affecting our young and old people. It is so toxic. There is so much smog in the morning that nothing can be seen. I have to go to work at the hospital. We are facing a lot of difficulties.
Last month, authorities had already restricted outdoor exercise for school children and adjusted school hours to limit their exposure. Health experts warn of the dire consequences of breathing this toxic air, which the WHO links to serious health issues like strokes, heart disease, lung cancer, and respiratory illness. With no end in sight, Lahore residents are bracing for further disruption and a difficult road ahead as the city battles this environmental crisis. Tripti Tripathi for DD India.
Now, in response to North Korea's latest long-range missile test, South Korea, Japan and the United States on Sunday conducted a joint air drill involving a heavy bomber. The drill mobilized the US's B-1B bomber, South Korea's F-15K and KF-16 fighter jets and Japan's F-2 jets. The B-1B Lancer is a supersonic heavy bomber known for its high-speed performance with a payload of 34,000 kilograms of munitions, including both conventional and precision-guided weapons. The exercise took place 3 days after Pyongyang launched one of its most powerful and advanced solid-fueled intercontinental ballistic missiles, which experts say could reach targets in mainland US. Hundreds of opposition activists gathered in Serbia's Belgrade on Sunday to mourn the victims of a deadly railway station accident near Novi Sad. Opposition parties, activists and rights groups in Serbia accused Serbian Progressive Party of widespread corruption and negligence. The accident took place on Friday in Novi Sad that left 14 people dead and 3 severely injured. Serbia's Prime Minister Milos Vucevic said that authorities are investigating the matter, while the prosecutor's office in the city said that it had interviewed 26 people in connection with the accident. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. Well, people in Sudan hope for resumption of peace talks and concrete actions to protect civilians as the country has been plagued with conflict for more than a year. More than 14 million civilians have fled their homes amid deadly conflict between armed forces and paramilitary forces. The clashes have particularly intensified in capital Khartoum, where the two sides exchanged fire at various parts of the city on Saturday, causing 2 civilian deaths and several injuries. The 4th review of Egypt's loan program with the International Monetary Fund will begin on Tuesday. The IMF increased the size of its loan to Egypt to $8 billion from $3 billion in March. Recently, Egyptian president has cautioned that Egypt may need to reassess its expanded loan program. Hundreds of supporters gathered in the Mauritian capital of Port Louis for a campaign rally of the opposition Alliance for Change party. Presidential candidate Navin Ramgoolam promised change and said that his mission is to restore freedom to Mauritians and to return the rights to the people. A total of 279 Greek artifacts are set to make their debut at the National Museum of China on Thursday. The exhibition aims to explore the persistent pursuit and diverse creation of the theme of beauty in ancient Greece. And still to come on DD India News Hour, we'll be talking to our expert guest on the ongoing protest by Hindu groups demanding safety for minorities in Bangladesh and other crises. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar interacts with the Indian community in Australia's Brisbane.
Welcome to Kumarakom, Kerala, God's own country.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go on any further, another look at our top stories. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump make a final push ahead of the election day in swing states. Trump says he'll launch an economic miracle after victory. Harris warns his plan could spark recession and inflation. Authorities in Pakistan's Lahore announced emergency measures in view of unprecedented air pollution levels. Primary schools are shut. Orders issued for work from home. And India's Adani Group cuts 50% electricity supply to Bangladesh due to unpaid bills. Sets a deadline of the 7th of November to settle all dues. Now, ever since the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh has been facing crisis after crisis at multiple fronts. From religio-political violence to factory closures and other economic challenges to the latest where its power supply could be cut to a large extent. Why is that happening and what's the way forward? Let's talk about that. We have with us Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, joining us. Good evening to you, Ms. Sikri. What do you make of what's happening in Bangladesh? The power crisis seems to be just symptomatic of an overall economic challenge that Bangladesh seems to be facing?
Regime change that took place on the 5th of August when former Prime Minister left Dhaka, the economic aspect of the crisis in Bangladesh has been getting more and more serious. You know, during the previous 15 years of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's rule from, beginning 2009 to 2024, the economy had been growing steadily at a pace of 6 to 8% every year, which led to a lot of prosperity, a lot of increased income, and generally a feel-good factor, although there were a lot of problems on the political side. But now, with this crisis, the entire economic structure, which had been so well put together and was going ahead with great success, has begun to fall apart. And what has come to light, for example, is that, say, the Adani power project, which was an excellent power project, 1,600 megawatts to be supplied to Bangladesh, from a power project built in India, but with a dedicated transmission line going all the way to Bangladesh for use in that country. But the bills remain unpaid, and because of that, Gautam Adani has said that he will not be able to supply the power any longer. So this is a big problem that has come before the country, and there's been a sharp decline in availability of power, with the result that the ready-made garments factories, which is a hard core of the economic system of Bangladesh, giving it the prosperity and massive exports, those are operating at a very, very low capacity, sometimes even 30% of the maximum potential of operation. And because of this, there's also, in addition to this, there's a problem of labor, because now once the students have got their way through, protesting and so on, the labor wants to do the same in the factories, the bureaucrats want to do the same in the secretariat, and so there's generally a feeling of protest all around. And because of that, we do see that the factories are under great stress, and economy is coming down. There's already expected to be a sharp...
What would be the impact if the 7th of November deadline is not met by Bangladesh and the power supply? Right now it's halved. It's completely cut off.
Well, you see, first of all, the Bangladesh government now owes the Adani Group around more than $800 million. They have been paying, I believe now, in response to the earlier discussions with Mr. Adani, they've been paying something like $18 million a week, but that is too little to get up to the figure of $800 million. And the Adani Group has already cut supply by 50%. They have already announced a 50% supply cut. And
their reason was dollar shortage.
Part of the reason, they do have a foreign exchange crunch, but this was part of what was envisaged when the Adani project was conceived and implemented. Bangladesh has one of its best ever foreign exchange reserves, crossing $40 billion, which was one of the highest ever for Bangladesh. And then suddenly, I think they took a number of maybe one or two incorrect decisions, and the foreign exchange reserves started falling sharply. But then this whole crisis has been compounded by the regime change, which has led the economy in a state of real collapse. And because of that, nobody's looking at it, how to get the money together, how to go to the IMF, how to get the, loans, etc. So because of the political disturbances, the economy has been largely left to itself, and there's been complete chaos. And of course, a group like the Adani Group have said that after 7th November, even the 50% cut will be further deepened and full power supply will be cut. I think there will be a sharp deterioration in the factory production, because if the power supply is not available, then the factories just will not be able to operate, and there will be a sharp cut in the power supply to individuals, to homes, to schools, to colleges, to medical facilities, and in all, the supply and power cut is going to be a big blow for the Bangladesh economy, because one of the main points on which former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was able to give economic growth to the country was focus on increasing power supplies to Bangladesh from India and from other countries.
So clearly the impact will be catastrophic. And what was expected of Muhammad Yunus? He was put in charge of the caretaker government. He's a Nobel laureate himself, a man of economics himself, had a successful, one could say, almost an enterprise which helped a lot of people economically. But has he been able to deliver on what were the expectations from the people, from the students themselves, as to how the country will be managed, not just economically, also socially? The entire society now seems to be in a bit of a strife if you look at what's been happening of late, protests in the streets.
Absolutely. Actually, I think, if I may say so, Professor Muhammad Yunus really does not seem to be in control of the economy of Bangladesh, in control of the political situation either. In fact, it's a completely anarchic situation at the moment, and people are describing it as a mobocracy. The mobs are taking over. And in fact, what has happened is we saw that because the moment that the regime change took place, we found the mobs which are really led by the Jamaat-e-Islami. So behind the front label of Professor Muhammad Yunus, there's the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Hizb ut-Tahrir, which are Islamic radical groups, which are in charge and are ruling the economy, ruling the country from behind the seat of power, which is that of Professor Muhammad Yunus. And we saw, for example, that the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami surrounded the judges and asked them to step down. They surrounded professors in the universities and asked them to step down. And we saw in the first few weeks an intense attack on the minority communities. We saw there were rapes and killings and abductions and burnings, and a lot of people lost their life and property among all the minorities, the Hindus, which are the largest minority, but also the Buddhists and the Christians. But they took a strong stand and said, no, we are citizens of this country, we will not go, we want our rights. And since then, they have been demanding for their rights, because even though, India took it up very strongly, Prime Minister Modi wrote to Professor Muhammad Yunus about it, Prime Minister Modi spoke about it from the ramparts of Red Fort, he spoke to President Biden about it. Despite all of this, the physical attacks may have stopped, but the economic...
Donald Trump also spoke about it on Diwali.
Yes, and President Trump called it barbaric. He said the attacks on the Hindus have been barbaric, and he called the situation in Bangladesh chaotic. So I think all this is a reflection that really there is no group, as you're showing in your visuals, how these people are marching. They want their rights. They have been charged with sedition. Just because they were carrying, in addition, the Hindu community was carrying the flag of Bangladesh, but also an orange-colored flag, so they've been charged with sedition. We've seen that the Hindu groups in Chittagong, 10,000 to 20,000 of them, in Dhaka as well yesterday, they have been asking for, that the prosecution of the people who have attacked them. They've been asking for a law to protect the rights of the minorities. They've been asking for a Ministry of Minority Affairs. So they've made a list of demands which they have given to the Chief Advisor, Professor Muhammad Yunus. But there is no response at all. And in fact, the government of Professor Muhammad Yunus has been completely dismissive of any of the claims that there is attacks on the Hindu minorities.
Yes.
No, there are only a few. And actually, this is not even communal. This is because of the political situation. Whereas the very
So a bit of a living in denial is happening. And do you think that he will also continue to live in denial of the fact that there's pressure being built on him and those who are working with him to hold elections as well, especially the Awami League with its allies are saying hold elections in a situation where Bangladesh seems to be caught in a downward spiral?
Yeah, well, you see, the interim government that has been sworn in has been sworn in allegiance, taken its oath in allegiance to the present constitution of Bangladesh. But After that, one would have expected their duty would be to follow the constitution of Bangladesh. On the other hand, they're talking about reforming the constitution, they're talking about electoral reforms. The interim government actually does not have any constitutional status at the moment, and their only job, even in the previous constitution when there was a provision for a caretaker government, their only job is to arrange for elections within 90 days to have free and fair elections, and when the new government comes, they can do whatever decisions they want to take. But as against that, the pressure from the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Islamic radicals is to postpone the election. And Professor Mohammed Yunus has been saying elections only after reforms. Now, how can an interim government take decisions on reforms like constitutional reforms, electoral reforms, economic reforms? This is the job of an elected
government. It almost seems that somebody could seek judicial intervention and say that this government has no legitimacy, remove it.
Well, the present mood in Bangladesh is very much to say that where is the constitutional legitimacy for this government? Now, the question of asking for its removal, etc., that I don't know at that stage how that would develop in the next few weeks. But right now, there are a lot of people who are saying, well, earlier it was better before the regime change. And they are worried about the situation now because the economy is going down. There are no signs of election. There are protests not only by the minority communities, as you are showing, but also by the garment factory workers, by the students. The students is not even a coordinated group. We have the students run by the Islamic wings, the Islamic radical student groups. They seem to be in control, but the other student groups have formed their own party. So even among the students, there is no longer any kind of coordination. It is a very chaotic situation indeed, and one has to wait for a few more days and weeks maybe. One has seen what President Trump has said. Maybe let us see what the election results bring in the USA to see how this will develop further. But certainly, as far as the people of Bangladesh are concerned, there does not seem to be much much hope in their hearts for quick elections or for a quick return to normalcy and for a quick return to economic growth.
Yes, it does seem that a lot of things are in motion, but also in suspended animation because of what is supposed to unfold on Tuesday in the US. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Ms. Veena Sikri. Now, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar interacted with members of the vibrant Indian community in Australia's Brisbane. Dr. Jaishankar spoke about the strong India-Australia comprehensive strategic partnership and the efforts, vision and leadership by both countries to energize it. The External Affairs Minister also said that the upcoming opening of India's 4th consulate in Australia is a step forward in friendship between two nations. He said that India and Australia share a long history in trade and economy.
Our relationship, in a way, has just begun. That there are immense possibilities, that we have today. Treat these 10 years as a foundation. This is a foundation which all of you and all of us together have to build on. We see in every domain, the manner in which our defense collaboration has grown in the last decade has been really very impressive. There are a number of occasions where our military work together very closely, and the extent today of the cooperation is something we couldn't have even imagined 5-10 years ago.
And later in the day, Dr. Jaishankar met the Chancellor of University of Queensland, Peter Verghese, in Brisbane. They discussed matters related to educational and research collaborations between India and Australia. Dr. Jaishankar will also co-chair the 15th Foreign Ministers Framework Dialogue with Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong in Canberra. He will deliver the keynote address at the inaugural session of the 2nd Raisina Down Under to be held in Australian Parliament House. Several people have been injured in a grenade blast that took place at Sunday Market area of Srinagar, the capital of the North Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Police officials said that terrorists lobbed a grenade in a busy market near TRC, resulting in injuries to several people. All of them have been immediately shifted to a nearby hospital for treatment. All are said to be stable and they have received a few splinters. Now, soon after the incident, the area was cordoned off to nab the attackers. Meanwhile, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, in a social media post on X said, and I quote, "Today's news of a grenade attack on innocent shoppers at the Sunday market in Srinagar is deeply disturbing. There can be no justification for targeting innocent civilians. The security apparatus must do everything possible to end the spurt of attacks at the earliest so that people can go about their lives without any fear. India's Minister for Railways, Ashwini Vaishnav, said on Sunday that the Indian government has sanctioned 393 crore rupees for the renovation of Thrissur railway station in the southern Indian state of Kerala. The minister, who is on a one-day visit to the state to review various rail development projects, said that a total of 3,000 crore rupees has been allocated for the railway development projects in Kerala since the Narendra Modi government came to power in 2014. The railway minister was addressing the media after reception, according to him, at the Thrissur railway station.
Announced that Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has sanctioned 393 crore rupees for development of the Thrissur station. 393 crore rupees for the complete redevelopment of Thrissur station. You will recall that 10 years ago, Kerala was getting only 370 crore rupees as budget allocation for development of railways. Now, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji is allocating 3,000 crore rupees for development of railways.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. The 7th edition of Marrakesh Air Show 2024 in Morocco showcases innovations in aeronautics and space technology. And Team India slumped to a historic low in home tests against New Zealand. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. In Nepal, 5-day Tihar festival concluded on Sunday after the celebration of Bhai Tika. Bhai Tika is the final and major day of the Tihar festival, on which sisters offer 7 Tika colors to their brothers and wish them a long life. On this occasion, Bal Gopal Shavor temple in Rani Pokhari was opened for the Bhaitiki celebrations. Meanwhile, women in Tarai region celebrated Bhaiya Dooj on Sunday as well. On the 3rd of November each year, we celebrate the International Day of Biosphere Reserves, highlighting efforts to foster a sustainable relationship with nature. With 18 biosphere reserves, India contributes to a global impact in conservation and sustainability. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets you this report.
As each year passes, the urgency of addressing environmental issues becomes more apparent. On 3rd of November, International Day for Biosphere Reserves is celebrated for a sustainable, harmonious relationship with nature while preserving our world for future generations.
In the late 1960s, people with a foresight, with a vision, they realized that the way we are exploiting nature cannot continue at the same level that we are doing it. Man and the Biosphere Program, you can also call it the Human and the Biosphere Program, the MAP program of UNESCO. It was then established in 1971, and that also gave birth to the World Network of Biosphere Reserves.
There are 18 biosphere reserves in India. This year, the theme emphasizes the power of local action to inspire global change and highlights the crucial role each individual can play.
India has made very good progress in terms of biosphere reserve establishment. India is participating since 24 years, and since that time India has established one biosphere reserve on average every 2 years, so that's quite impressive. So India has a lot of potentialities. I'm an optimist. I would very much hope that by the end of the century that India would perhaps develop 100 biosphere reserves, taking the lead in the world. India can do it.
Biosphere reserves are organized into 3 primary zones: core, buffer and transition. Together, these areas work to conserve the landscape and the ecosystems while facilitating education, movement of people and research. They serve as living laboratories for sustainability. These reserves also play a key role in tackling climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide, helping to offset emissions. Beyond conservation, they contribute to sustainable development by fostering ecotourism and other environmental friendly initiatives that support local economies. Tapush Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
And now let's get you some sporting updates as well. Well, New Zealand completed an unprecedented 3-0 series sweep in India as the Black Caps secured a 25-run victory in the third test in Mumbai. The hosts were dismissed for 121 on a tricky wicket on day 3 of the match. The last time India were blanked at home was in 2000 in a 2-match series against South Africa. Rishabh Pant was the lone Indian batsman to show resistance as he made a sublime 64. Man of the match Ajaz Patel claimed 6 wickets for 57 runs, his second 5-wicket haul in the match. Fellow spinner Glenn Phillips took 3 wickets for 42 runs. After the defeat, India have lost their top spot in the World Test Championship standings and dropped to second place. Now Australia hold the top spot. 72 participants from 23 countries took flight on the first day of Paragliding World Cup being organized at Bir Biring in Kangra, Himachal Pradesh. The target given to the participants was 68 kilometers according to aerial distance and 93 kilometers according to the location. Austin Cox of the US secured first position in the men's category, while Joanna Kokat of Poland secured first position in the women's category. On the occasion, President of Paragliding World Cup Association gave detailed information to all participants about the technical aspects, weather and wind direction from the safety point of view. Indian shuttler Malvika Bansor went down against 7th seed Mia Blinchfeld of Denmark in the final of Hilo Open badminton tournament in Saarbrücken city of Germany. Bansor had no answer to the explosive game of the experienced Danish shuttler, resulting in a straight game defeat. She lost 10-21, 15-21 in the summit clash of the Badminton World Federation World Tour. Though Bansor was in good form this year, she won the Azerbaijan International in February and reached the US Open semi-finals in June. Now, India clinched 3 gold and as many silver medals on the final day of the Under-19 World Boxing Championships in Colorado in the United States. In the female 65 kg category, Parthavi Grewal trounced the Netherlands' Alia Hopema in the final to clinch the gold. Vanshika Goswami emerged triumphant in the female 80+ kg category final against Germany's Victoria Gatt. Meanwhile, Hemant Sangwan became India's only gold medalist in the men's segment on the final day. India's 19-member boxing contingent wrapped up their campaign after winning 17 medals. These included 4 gold, 8 silver and 5 bronze. And India's Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia, congratulated the boxers. He posted on X, and I quote, "Proud of our young boxers who have delivered a stellar performance at the inaugural Under-19 World Boxing Championships in Colorado, USA, bringing home a total of 17 medals. An extraordinary feat on the global stage with 4 gold, 8 silvers and 5 bronze. It gives me great happiness to share that 11 of the 17 medals have been won by Khelo India athletes, 8 of whom also train at SAI National Centre for Excellences across the country. I congratulate all the winners for their success, a testament to their hard work, and the support from our coaches and training centres. Tennis now, in Germany's Alexander Zverev won the Paris Masters by defeating home favourite Hugo Humbert 6-2, 6-2 in the final. The 27-year-old has now clinched 7 ATP 1000 level titles over the course of his career. It was a happy return to Paris for Zverev after he lost the French Open final to Carlos Alcaraz in June this year. 4 years ago, he lost the Paris Masters Championship match to Daniil Medvedev. His victory in Saturday's semi-final meant the current world number 3 will overtake Spain's Alcaraz in the new updated rankings. The German will next play the ATP finals in Turin from the 10th to the 17th of this month. Now, the 7th edition of Marrakesh Air Show 2024 was held at the Marrakesh Military Air Base in Morocco, showcasing innovations in aeronautics and space technology. This year's event includes aerial demonstrations and an exhibition featuring aircraft, helicopters and prototypes, highlighting the North African country's growth in the global aerospace industry. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.